Hey everyone, 9.7 is just a week away now, so it's time we take a look at all of the changes coming in and what impact they're likely going to have. This is what the patch should look like. So we have buffs to Mundo, Cho'Gath, Garen, Rumble, also to Kayn, Azir, Pyke, Leona, and Cinderhulk. We're going to have nerfs to Silas, Lissandra, Kayle, Morgana, Urgot, and Darkseal, and then updates to Wit's End and all of the runes in the second row of the Domination tree. By the way, this week on Quarterback, we're actually against a rival club to see who can get the most trophies by the end of the week. There's honestly not much reason not to do this. You accept a challenge before every game, whether it's for the max kills or like I do CS because I'm an AD main. I play like normal, win the challenges, get coins, get free skins, but there's also a bonus if you can hit over 1,000 trophies this week. Link down below to join our fighters, and it'd be awesome if you could help us win. Okay, so we're going to go into the updates to start with, and there is a Wit's End rework. So it's going to be 2,900 gold now, 50% attack speed, 50 magic resist, 5% move speed, and a new passive. It will deal 15 to 80 magic damage depending on your level on hit, while below half health though, you heal for 33% of the damage dealt, or 100% if you're melee. With these things, I always like to compare them to the current version. So it's 500 more gold than it is right now, but 10% more attack speed and 10 more magic resist. It also used to deal 42 magic damage on hit, and now it's less early but almost double later, which is pretty good. But it also had this passive that would steal 30 magic resist, so technically the old version would be 70 magic resist total, 20 more than the new version, and you would do more damage. You didn't have to heal in that version though, but now you're going to take more damage but heal it back again afterwards, if that makes sense, and the damage probably is going to be slightly higher later. One thing with this though is you would steal the 30 magic resist, which would increase all of your other magic damage to them as well, whether from abilities or from others. So in terms of killing someone with AP, it's actually way worse. Like for Kog'Maw, if you buy this, it actually makes your W, even though it's percentage damage, that is percentage magic damage. So that would actually do more with the Wit's End shred. I don't know if it's a buff or not, partly because of that, partly considering it's like 500 gold more expensive, but it's definitely something that makes more sense later now, and it's not like an early rush item anymore. Let's look at the Domination rework updates as well. So Ghost Burrow, when your wards expire, you leave a Ghost Burrow that grants vision for 60 seconds. You're going to gain some AD or AP for every Ghost Burrow that you've spawned up to 10, and then at 10 you're going to gain 10 adaptive force on top of that as well. The other two are very similar. So for Zombie Ward, it's still removing an enemy ward spawns a Zombie Ward. But then it's like Ghost Burrow though. You gain some AD or AP for every Zombie Ward that you've spawned up to 10, and at 10 you also gain another 10 adaptive force. Eyeball collection is very similar, except everything has been halved really, so you only need 10 collected now, 10 eyeballs I guess, rather than 20. Ward kills don't count though, neither do assists, only kills, and each stack gives the same, so AD or AP, and at 10 stacks another 10 adaptive force. That seems to be 30 AP now from this room, which is actually really good. Like if you take Ghost Burrow as well, all you have to do is place 10 wards. That's not really that difficult, let's be honest. Zombie Ward is maybe a little bit quicker, or it could be, but it might be a bit more difficult. You've got to go ward hunting for that one. For Eyeball, you actually have to kill 10 people, which might be fine, but you don't really drop 10 kill games all the time. Either way, it's actually pretty cool. It's a way more viable choice. There is a clear advantage to each of them, but basically they are all the same benefit, but you just get that benefit in a different way, which you choose depending on what your champion is good at, if that makes sense. Now let's move into our nerfs. Now we know most of these except the Urgot change, but I'm gonna guess they go after his damage or his W because that seems to be the pain point for now. Lissandra is probably the biggest nerf that we have though. The Q cooldown has been increased to 10 to 4 seconds from 6 to 3. That is almost double rank 1. Not quite, but it's kind of close, right? So if you're in lane phase and you're like trying to push and stuff, now you're probably only going to be able to use it once, whereas you could use it twice before. This is what lets you actually push and like poke and get control, and it's actually a really big nerf, I think. Considering you do max your Q out first, it is only a lane phase thing, by the way, really, so you only have to put up with it in the lane phase, but that is where a lot of your power is right now, so it's definitely going to affect her. Speaking of lane bully, by the way, Silas is also getting a few nerfs. So base health has been lowered by 2, and the Q damage has been lowered by 20 rank 5. I actually got pretty much one shot by Silas's Q earlier yesterday, I think. When you have AP items, it can do so much damage, but the health regen is saying that if you poke him, then it will stick more, and you might be able to force him out of lane. I'm not sure if this is really what we need to tone him down right now. Almost everybody bans Silas in Diamond now because he can just get out of control and there's not really much you can do about it. It's kind of like he has mobility, the dashes, the chain stun thingy, the damage, the healing, even outside of stealing ultimates, which is kind of supposed to be the magical thing about him. It's not just Silas being banned all the time, Kayle as well gets a lot of that treatment, and she is getting a lot of nerfs. Her armor per level has been lowered by 0.5, Q and W mana cost increased by 10, your W move speed has been lowered by 2 to 10% depending on the rank, and your E bonus damage, the missing health part, has been lowered to 8 to 16% plus 1% per 100 AP that you have from just a flat 10 to 20%. So right now, the most popular builds aren't really heavy AP focused. They're more attack speed or like some AP, but a lot of like health, like a Rylai's or some healing or some AD. The armor per level isn't massive. It does add up over the game, but by the time I think it would make a difference, really you're already ranged and shredding people because you've hit level 11 or level 16. Your Q and W are costing more at every single rank, by the way, so your lane phase will feel it a little bit more when you're trying to do anything, and that might make a difference. They're hitting a lot of different things, but not really much about the scaling. The E is really the biggest part though that might move away from the Trinity Force crit build and encourage you to go AP to keep that execute. Morgana is also getting a couple of nerfs, so health regen has been lowered and your WAP ratio per second lowered by 2%. So over the 5-second duration, that will be down 10%, right? But it's not really about the base that much. It is the damage amp, right? That goes up by 170% depending on their missing health, and that is where the majority of the damage is going to come from. Since it is an AP ratio, it's more targeted at mid lane morgue that we've been seeing rather than support. So support should be fine. You'll notice it a little bit, but not too much. It's mostly for mid lane. Last nerf then is a weird one. Darksteel AP has been reduced by 5. I don't think it really needs a nerf, but it's making it more of a gamble. It's kind of saying like, buy this if you want to try and snowball, make it a worse item to buy on its own that gives a big potential payoff if you get the stacks. Now let's move into our buffs, and some of these we actually don't know just yet. So like Kayn, Mundo, Cho'Gath, Garen, Rumble, and Pyke, we don't know exactly what they're going to be yet. For Garen, we know they are targeting his W, but not exactly what that's going to be yet. For Kayn though, we actually had some buffs, but they're not there anymore. So his E cooldown was lowered by 1 second, and it was a 50% cooldown reduction on the Shadow Assassin form. Obviously, the big part there was making the Assassin Kayn more mobile by reducing it by 50% if that went through, right? It makes sense in a way. Assassins are supposed to be kind of slippery, ducking in and out of fights, but this would give him way more access around the map, and walls would basically not exist from anymore. One that is still there though that we are going to get is some buffs to Azir. So the health regen per level has been increased and your Q damage increased by 10. The health regen is again aiming at making him like even better late game, but health regen it later is not really that huge. The Q is kind of nice though, 10 more damage, and by the way, this doesn't do additional damage for enemies hit by multiple soldiers, so it is just a 10 increase. That is not massive, but bear in mind that in 9.4 his attack speed per level was doubled, and now he is a monster late game. The Q is wave clear, it's your poke as well. Basically, if you don't int too hard early, you can actually carry late now, so any buff that's kind of targeted at your lane phase is going to be really good. Leona is getting a good buff though, so her E cooldown has been lowered to 12 to 6 seconds depending on the rank from 13 to 9. If you have 40% cooldown reduction, that is under a 4-second cooldown now to go in on somebody with your E, and that's actually disgusting. Imagine like she misses E normally, that's great, right? You can go and fight her now and punish her, but not anymore. She's going to use it again pretty much straight away. This makes her way better because it is targeting the punishing part, right? Like if you miss your E, you can't go in anymore. Your melee, you can't do anything, like you're standing around like a lemon if you miss it. It's sort of like reducing the cooldown on Blitzcrank's hook and then wondering why he's so good. Educated guess-wise, I reckon we'll see more Leona in 9.7 now that she can engage way more and make a lot more plays. The final buff that we do know about is Cinderhulk. So the bonus damage to minions and monsters has been increased by 100% to 300%. So Cinderhulk is two things, right? It's a 15% bonus health buff, which means that as a tank you get beefier, and it's supposed to make up for the kind of fact that as a tank jungler you're not really gonna have as many items as like a laner. The other part to it though is helping you farm quicker, so you can actually gank more and you're not stuck in the jungle doing like no damage and just stuck there farming. This is from 200% to 300%, and that is a lot of percent to go up suddenly, and it should really help a lot of these slower junglers that we have. Sejuani kind of gets around this by farming well anyway, but now it might open up the door to more tank junglers like a Zac, for example. Probably would be really good with this buff, or just make Sejuani even stronger. Now, to round out this video, I want to have a testing section. So these are the ones that Riot are looking at that they've been testing, but they might come back in another patch and not in 9.7. Blitzcrank was the first one having a few changes tested. So passive shield strength changed from 50% current mana to 30% max mana, and your ultimate had a new passive as well. So while active, lightning charges his fists, marking enemies that he attacks. After a second, the marked enemies would take some damage, some base, some AP ratio, and also 3% of your maximum mana. The passive is going to be a lot better in the lane phase if it happened. Blitz has huge mana cost anyway, so you're never that high on mana when you end up proccing it, but 30% max is just much better. It looks like apart from the second like waiting between each one, every auto attack is going to proc this as long as your ultimate isn't on cooldown. So don't use it, and those autos are going to do a lot more. Rank 2, that is like 100 damage. It's 30% of your AP and 3% of your max mana. That could see some more depth to him and more damage for sure. Aftershock also had a few nerfs. So armor and magic resist changed to 20 to 170 from 70 to 120, and the damage no longer had AP and AD ratios. Basically, it was making it way worse early game, knocking off 50 from it, which is huge, but adding on 50 late game. I don't really mind that, to be honest. Like early game, you have no counterplay because you have no arm penetration or magic penetration, but late game, you could buy some if you wanted to counter it. This would have stopped it being abused in the lane phase as much for sure, like to get a few kills and just take no damage, and then the damage off it also means that it's purely there to keep you alive rather than help you kill anyone. The final thing they were testing were some buffs to Oriana. So Q damage increased by 10 and ultimate damage increased by 25. The Q would have been nice since it's per target hit and it's your main wave clear tool during the lane phase. Plus it would help with any poke as well. 25 damage on your ultimate isn't massive, but it's not bad either. They said they wanted to test other things though before bringing these in. As I said, those three are not in 9.7, so don't expect to see them there, but all of the others should be. Remember to join our Quarterback Club as well below. Check out the stream if you want to, which will be live right now as I release the video. But for now, I will leave you with the robots.